Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to this masterclass. I am Emma, as you know, and I am a dating and relationship coach who specializes in helping women in their midlife period to A, get ready for love, B, effortlessly meet their ideal man, and C, to go on to experience the best relationship of their lives. So, today, I am going to be spilling the beans on how you can meet your ideal man in the next 90 days and be in a loving relationship this summer. And get this, it will feel effortless. So, I want you to imagine finding your perfect match after just 1 or 2 dates. And if you think that sounds too good to be true, I can promise you that it's not, because I have seen and supported countless women just like you to go from feeling frustrated and completely ready to throw in the towel to completely transforming their love lives. They've found happiness with amazing men and they've done it with ease. So, if you're feeling jaded or hopeless about dating right now, I want you to know that I've got your back. And today I'm going to be sharing 9 empowered steps that you can take that will help you absolutely crush the dating game and effortlessly attract your ideal man, just like so many of my clients have done. We are going to be talking about exactly what it takes to shine your light so brightly as you date that you attract a man who is shining his light brightly and just as radiantly as you are. And when you keep this light turned on, he is going to be the one begging you for commitment. So the magic happens when you do the foundational work first to get ready for love. And this foundational work is all about understanding the patterns, the fears, the wounds, and the limiting beliefs that have kept you stuck in the cycle of dead end dates or long-term singledom so far. Because when you can release yourself from those, that's when you'll be able to reclaim your feminine genius, wisdom, and power. And it's also when you'll be able to access and make friends with your desires and communicate them effectively without any neediness or resentment. And all of this is going to make a good, healthy, kind, masculine man sit up and take so much notice. Just like a man called Neil did when my client Carola spoke her truth with an open heart to him. So let's take a look at what Carola said. She said, I spoke my truth about my feelings to a man I was falling in love with called Neil. He told me that he'd never seen anyone do anything so beautiful and so brave. And now we're together, and he so far ticks all the boxes on my relationship blueprint. 10 months later, they're still together, and she writes to me to say that he is a kind, honest, and emotionally super real guy. We love each other very much, and definitely the long-term goal is to live together. But that needs to be approached slowly because of her daughter. But it's been nearly 10 months, fingers crossed. Thanks for asking. Your work has helped me so much. So that is the promise, ladies. And let me click back around again. Okay. So if you're ready to reinvent your love life and find happiness with an amazing man, let's dive in. Because as I've said, tonight I'm going to be taking you through 9 empowered steps. And these 9 empowered steps are broken down into 3 sets of 3 that will set you up for dating success and finding the one. So, the first set of 3 are all about clearing out the garbage and getting ready for love. So, in this set of steps, what we're doing is we're tossing out all the old baggage that is weighing you down, healing your heart from the energetic shrapnel that may have gotten stuck in there, and resetting your compass to true north. It's all about building confidence and that inner knowing that says, I can have what I want. Now, the next set of 3 steps is about setting yourself up for dating success. So I'm going to be showing you how to hack the dating apps and have them work for you rather than against you. And this is going to happen, when you understand how to date from the exalted version of yourself rather than the jaded and depleted one. The final three steps are going to be all about meeting your ideal man online and effortlessly securing his commitment. And yes, we're also going to be talking about knowing exactly when it's the right time to get intimate. So these 9 steps are the exact ones that I took myself to reinvent my own love life, and the exact ones that so many of my clients have followed to effortlessly meet the man of their dreams too. Now, I know that some of you might listen to this today and think that you can put this into action on your own. But the truth is that a woman's heart is a very complex and delicate entity. And so it really does take time and guidance to shift deep underlying patterns, habits, and beliefs. So, as you listen to what I'm saying today, and feel free to share in the comments as well, I want you to ask yourself, how much of what Emma is saying do I recognize in myself? Which parts particularly resonate? And where am I getting particularly stuck? And some further questions that you might want to ask yourself and share again in the comments if you want to is, am I truly ready for love? Or do I have some underlying beliefs and feelings that are holding me back? And if so, what kind of support do I need to shift these? Do I really know what I'm doing when I'm dating? Do I know how to get past some common dating obstacles, such as not finding anyone decent online, coming across too many men whose conversation, let's face it, ladies, is a bit crap? Handling the sexters, the ghosters, or the scammers, not being able to get to that first date, or not feeling any chemistry with men when I do date them, or perhaps not being able to get past a handful of dates with men whom I do like. Because the truth is, and I'm not going to make any secret of it, the modern dating world really is a minefield, and you can get a leg or an arm blown off all too easily. And yet, the women who've taken the plunge and taken my 12-week program have the exact roadmap, tools, and specialist support to help them overcome these obstacles at every step of the journey. And also to be able to maintain their inner light and confidence no matter what the dating world brings up. And they're now experiencing loving relationships and building futures with great men. Plus, they've got all the foundational skills to make those relationships happy and sustainable. Remember, it takes 28 days to form a habit and a few months for those habits to anchor into your system in a way that brings about sustainable change in your love life. So, a quick reminder. A 50% discount is available on the Art of Electric Dating until midnight Sunday, May the 4th. And after that, I'm not going to be offering this discount again for at least a year and possibly never. So, to those of you who are still in two minds and a little on the fence, I have also decided to bring my fast action bonus back for just another 24 hours. So if you sign up by midnight tomorrow, which is midnight on Wednesday, the 30th of April, you will also receive 60 hours 60 extra hours worth of free training, including interviews with guest speakers from all around the world and Q&A sessions with women just like you on all things men, love, dating, and relationship related, as well as videos that take you through my complete 6-step method, the Reinvent Your Love Life method. So it's an offer that really is a no-brainer and too good to refuse. I also want to let you know that I only have one more spot left on the gold program and 4 spaces left on the silver program. So if you're drawn to one of those options, the time to take action is now. All right, so let's start with how I became a dating and relationship coach in the first place. Because believe it or not, my love life used to be a total train wreck. For years, I couldn't get past date one on a bad month or date five on a good one. I was on those dating apps for 15 years, ladies, with zero success, which, was heartbreaking to say the least, because I knew deep down that I was a good woman with a big heart, a lot of love to give, and a lot of love that I wanted to experience. But when I was about 41, I had a breakdown that changed everything. And in the middle of this breakdown, I came face to face with a hard truth, which was that I, unfortunately, was the common denominator in all this dating. And so I had to change things up. So here's what I discovered. I realized that without support, my woundedness around men was just going to get bigger and bigger, deeper and more painful. I realized that I was chasing the wrong guys when what I really wanted was love with a man my own age who could fully meet me. I realized that I was wasting time on dating sites that weren't serving me. I also realized that my dating profile, frankly, was as bland as an unseasoned chicken. It didn't really show the real me, state what I wanted, nor attract quality men to me. I also realized that I hadn't fine-tuned my intuition so that I could spot a good match from his profile and text before even investing the time in meeting him. I also didn't know how to use messaging to create a real connection and to get that in-person date within a couple of weeks. And when I did date, frankly, I was a ball of people-pleasing anxiety, and I rushed things to the point where I would get ghosted by men after sleeping with them too soon. Now, I made all of these realizations after that first realization, which was that I needed support to really see and understand my patterns. But look, here's the amazing thing. As soon as I healed my past hurts, got crystal clear on what I wanted, found the right dating site, created that standout magnetic dating profile, sharpened my intuition, and learned to stay in flow and connection with men and negotiate those pacing issues that can come up very easily between dates one to five, everything changed. I cracked the dating app code and met a fantastic man after just two dates, one with him, one with somebody else. And now my clients are doing the same. So I know that if both they and I can do it, then you can do it too. So let me just get a little drink of water. And then let me tell you a little bit about a client of mine called Sarah. So Sarah originally signed up to the bronze version of the program, but then when it first became available, she upgraded to the silver version as it was clear to both of us that she needed to go a little bit deeper. So Sarah was what we call avoidant when it came to dating. And she'd been flying solo for more years than I think she would care for me to mention here. But when we dug a little deeper together, it became apparent why. She was still carrying a lot of hurt from her past marriage and even from her childhood, which I'm sure some of you can relate to. And in my intimate group coaching sessions, we rolled up our sleeves and tackled those fears head on. And let me tell you that her transformation was amazing. And all the other women in the group could see it as well. They could see that Sarah was softening and that her heart was opening like a little flower in the spring. And she was finally available to love and to be loved. But here's what happened next. Sarah also needed to figure out what man would be truly good for her in a deeply aligned way. And she had to break free from being drawn to the wrong types as well. Now, you might have heard me talking about trauma bonding before. It's when our bodies, hearts, and whole systems light up for men who aren't actually any good for us. And so that's why we can't always trust a hell yes feeling. It's also why that dating advice, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a fuck no, is not necessarily true. So in our coaching sessions together, I encouraged Sarah to step out of her comfort zone and to date different types of men. And guess what? It wasn't long before she met a guy who was truly good for her. No more anxiety or that sick, knotted feeling in her stomach. So here she is in her own words. She says, after several years of keeping myself single, I'd been back on the dating apps for around 18 months and met some nice blokes on dates, but none went further than around 3 dates. I took on board what Emma had said about going for some maybes instead of it always being a hell yes, and how to be more vulnerable and open and to be more in my feminine. It's early days, but I'm currently seeing someone who several times I would normally write off as a maybe or even a no for minor things, not major red flags. But here we are, getting on really well with no anxiety on my part, just enjoying the natural progression of things. When I joined the Art of Electric Dating, it was only available as the now bronze version. The coaching sessions were added at a later date, and I definitely recommend the now silver option to get full use of the course and to work through any issues that arise as you go through it. Okay, I'll stop there because I'm getting ahead of myself. So, it's time for us to dive into the first 3 steps of the 9 empowered steps that will help you get ready for love. This is all the good stuff that, as you know by now, I teach in my Art of Electric Dating program in so much more detail. So, the problem that a lot of you are facing is that you're going online to date with gritted teeth. You hate it. You've had terrible experiences and it's all just so disheartening. So, either you've given up completely or you keep doing the same old thing, hoping for a different result. But you might have heard that this is actually the definition of madness, i.e., doing the same thing again and again and yet expecting a different result. But whichever path you've chosen, I imagine that your heart feels heavy and you're slowly or rapidly losing hope. Probably you also feel a bit resentful of men, the apps, the fakes, the men who just want sex, the ugly men, the lazy men, the men who are too old, and the men who are unavailable. Yeah, the whole damn scene just has you spinning. Well, the first step to getting energetically ready for love is to get beyond that resentment. Because here's the thing, you cannot attract more of what you are resentful of. So if you're resentful of men as a collective, if you're resentful of the dating apps, you're not going to be able to use the tool of the dating app to attract a man because there's just too many layers of resentment in there. Now, it might sound easy to just keep calm and carry on. Like, right, why not just toughen up and get on with it? But as I mentioned earlier, a woman's heart is a delicate and complex thing. So it doesn't work to just keep cracking on, ladies. Now, what I want to teach you tonight is how resentment is most often rooted in fear. It's fear of being powerless, of not being attractive, of not being worthy of love, of growing old alone, or of being rejected, right? There are probably some pretty big, vulnerable, fearful feelings that sit underneath the resentment that you're experiencing. And it's these vulnerable, fearful feelings that need attending to and nurturing in order for us to truly shift. Because what happens is that if we don't tend to them and love them, they tend to run us subconsciously and have us act in strange ways. So, for example, sleeping with a man to get love because subconsciously we fear that that is all we are worth. But I want to go into another example tonight, which you may not have thought of, but it's sending really closed off, abrupt messages that make men feel rejected. And the reason that we're doing this is because of our fear, because deep down we fear being rejected. So we're rejecting them to avoid being rejected ourselves. Now, I'm mentioning this particular one because I had a client last year who was a world champion at doing this. Her fear of rejection was so powerful that she was very unconsciously snubbing the men that she was dating when they didn't show up in the way that she was expecting them to. Now, when I read over her text messages with her, I could see that the men that she was dating were actually pretty available to her, if not incredibly available to her. But they were communicating in a way that was contrary to her very, very high expectations. And in turn, these expectations were high because she was protecting her heart and being hyper vigilant around her standards because she'd been hurt in the past. But the reality was, if we come out of her inner projections, that it was her who was doing the rejecting and giving off ice maiden vibes. And yet she just couldn't see this until she spent some time working with me. Her fear was subconsciously driving her, causing her to behave in an avoidant way, and then causing men to back away from her because her vibe was resentful and spiky. But now the problem is that she's stuck in a self-fulfilling prophecy because her resentment and the vibe that she was giving off was causing even more rejection because men were backing away, which then in turn caused her to become ever more resentful, ever more guarded, ever more spiky. And so the loop went on. And this was all because she hadn't addressed her underlying fears and opened up some of that complexity, tenderness, and delicacy that sat inside of her heart. Now, another way that fear runs a lot of women, and I mention this because it's so common, is that it sends us into people-pleasing behaviors. So this includes not telling men what you really want and need because you fear that if they see and feel the real you, you might be rejected. And yet, because you're not willing to tell them what you want and what you need, you don't get what you want and need, which increases the feelings of resentment. And again, the cycle goes on. So, the first of the 9 empowered steps that you need to take to meet your man in the next 90 days is to alchemize your resentment and get into those fears and start working with alchemizing those into powerful desires. Because when you can stand in the truth of your desire, you may lose some men, yes, but you'll also attract the right ones in who are a match for your most empowered feminine self. Because your heart's truest desire is more compelling and more magnetic than you can possibly imagine right now. Which brings me on to the slide that I was just about to show you earlier on. So let's go over this one. I have to say that before I met Emma, online dating was depressing. I found myself falling into the belief that I was happy with one night stands, as all the guys were. All I found were married men or guys who were only interested in sex. But I did the fear inventories with Emma and the desire work too, and it made me become crystal clear on what I wanted from a partner. I didn't really like it at first because it was so hard to come face to face with my own feelings and desires. But after I started doing this, I didn't feel as frustrated with dating in the same way. If guys didn't meet my standards, I didn't let the energy linger with me. I tried again. And I managed to get my desires to what I wanted to such a detailed list. And then I managed to find someone who actually ticked all of those boxes, including all the small geeky details that I loved, like films, and would be able to quote from those films to me. So it's worth the push through, and I encourage everybody else to try. And Cicely not only ditched the losers and found her man, but she went on to marry him and have his baby. So I'm telling you this tonight because I want you to know that when you can finally admit and stand for what you really want in a man, you will meet the man who wants the very same thing. And ladies, it can also transform the rest of your life too. So let me show you this. Oh, where did it go? Oops. Hold on. No, we have got the wrong screen. 1 second. You just saw all of my notes. Let's look at this. So this is from another lady, Pippa. who was stuck in resentment around dating apps. And she said, "Hi, Emma, I've been doing a lot of writing about resentment, fear, and desire. It's been invaluable and something that I'll continue to do. From writing, I've learned that I have an issue with feeling safe to be me, to speak up, and to love and be loved. So I've created affirmations for myself around this, which I've reassured myself with daily. I went to a work conference this week, and there's hundreds of people there that you don't know. And usually I go into myself to feel safe. This time, I caught myself resisting love and friendship, which I so crave. And I physically felt myself let down a bit of a guard and allow myself to love and be loved. It was such a wonderful feeling. I also found the courage to speak up and be myself. I was making people laugh, and people were looking for me to hang out with. It was such an important week for me, and I'm so glad that I've done the work on myself before then because it's given me confidence to keep going with assuring myself and feeling safe. Thank you, Emma. That's after just module one. Woohoo! Workbook two is tonight. I've been putting it off for a while, but tonight is the night. And it wasn't long before, after 12 short weeks, she found her man and texted me to say that things are going unbelievably well. The communication is so good. He adores her. They laugh out loud. He ticks all her boxes. And she's still doing that work to just reassure herself that she can open her heart, speak her truth, and receive all of that love. Okay, so let's go back. So, as you can see in module one of the Art of Electric Dating, we go into this whole concept around resentment, fear, and desire in a lot more detail. And I teach you a practice that you can use every day and every week for the rest of your life, ladies, right? That will shift you out of that resentment and fear and into the true north of your desire. And if you decide to do the silver or the gold version of the program, we will also uncover any blind spots that you have in this department and help you to take this work even deeper. But let's go on to the second of the 9 empowered steps because it might not just be the dating scene that has left you feeling jaded, depleted, and overwhelmed. It's highly likely that by the time you're in your midlife period and are single and looking for love, that you're carrying around some unhealed feelings from at least one significant former relationship. And this can also really weigh heavy on your heart and stop you from being fully available to love. And if what happened in that last relationship is left unexamined, i.e., if you never really fully resolved your feelings around it, which means you never fully understood what your part in it was, what his part in it was, and how you created the dynamic, the mess, and the hurt between you, then the likelihood is that you're not going to feel incredibly trusting when it comes to intimacy and so truly open and available for it with a new man. So, another universal law that I want to mention today is that the energy with which you leave one relationship is the same energy with which you start the next. And so, in order to start a new relationship with a really clean slate and without any emotional baggage, you really need to do that inner work in between relationships, ladies. So, the second empowered step that you want to take is to get to a place in which you've alchemized all the shit from that last relationship and turned it into gold. Okay, i.e., into golden nuggets of wisdom, so that you are truly confident. You know exactly what that relationship taught you. You know exactly what you will not do again and how to approach things differently, which in turn means you can trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you'll be more trusting about yourself in intimate relationships with men as well. So, this second step is really a big one. And it's not just about mentally understanding the lessons, it's also about fully integrating them into your heart, into your body, and into your life. To be honest with you, it really means having rewired your nervous system around these lessons so that these lessons are not academic. They're actually alive in your body, soul, and your life. Now, what happens is when your nervous system, and this is what the ladies were starting to point to in those testimonials, is that when their nervous systems were rewired and they started taking new action from those rewired nervous systems, they were no longer an energetic match for what they were an energetic match for in the past. They were no longer an energetic match for men who just wanted sex. They were no longer an energetic match for, not having any connection at work conferences. And the other thing that happens when you rewire your nervous system is that whatever happens in the past is no longer compelling to you. So not only are you not drawing it in, but you're not also being drawn to it, right? So you're not being compelled towards the same kind of man or to repeat the same kind of patterns, either consciously or more importantly, subconsciously, because it's this subconscious riptide in our personal ocean that can so often trip us up in spite of our best intentions. But that can only happen when we've got an idea up here, but we haven't integrated it here. So, step two in the art of electric dating is about completely upgrading and rewiring your nervous system so that it is an energetic match for something better and something new. There's a really powerful 90-minute video training on this in the art of electric dating and a workbook with a very deep exercise in it. Now, what I find is that for the women who take up the gold or silver version of the program, we often spend quite a lot of time on this module because healing your heart and rewiring your nervous system, it's not just an overnight job. And it's not something either that can take place on a free training. It's something that needs support, application, and practice over a few weeks. So we've spoken about Pippa. One of the other major breakthroughs that Pippa had when she did the gold program was that she realized that she'd been stuck around a past relationship for years. So much so that no other man that she dated came close. And she'd been hopping actually from one man to another man for years, trying desperately to outrun and erase the memory of the past relationship that still lived on in the recesses of her heart. But frankly, she was having little or no success. She was just driving herself crazy and building up all that resentment. But when she finally signed up to do this program, after years of dragging her feet on it, she finally was able to let that past relationship go and make way for a new deep relationship with a great man. And this was really from doing the work on module two. And that's the testimonial that I showed you just a few minutes ago. Okay, so the third empowered step that I also go into much more detail in on my program is about leaning further into your desires and getting really focused on them. So we've done the work to shift from resentment to fear to desire. Now we want to get these desires really anchored in. We've also done the work around healing from a past relationship, learning the lessons. Now we want to get the desires about what we're going to do differently the next time around, super, super anchored in. If you have been lost in the bushes of Southeast or Southwest when it comes to men, dating, love, and intimacy, you need to define exactly what the true north of your heart's deepest desires look and feel like. And yet, so many of us avoid doing this work because, as Cicely said in the earlier testimonial that I showed you, it can be hugely confronting. But one of the reasons that it's confronting is because, you might actually get what you want. Oh my God, can you imagine it? Right? Now, I'm making a big deal out of this because what so many of us don't realize is that we actually have what I call a havingness issue. The reason that we aren't happy in love isn't so much that we can't objectively have it, but that we subconsciously know that if we did have it, we might blow a fuse, right? And feel completely overwhelmed. As Pippa said, it's all about like reminding ourselves that we are safe and worthy of receiving it. But because of our subconscious programming and limiting beliefs, so many of us actually think that, gosh, it could actually be really dangerous, and scary if I got what I want. And so, therefore, it's safer to stay in the lack of love rather than in the actual having of it. So just take a breath and breathe that one in because it's even a little bit mind-blowing to consider that, right? Now, if you're willing to face this fear of havingness or the fear of even considering that it's possible, and really work on getting those desires anchored in at a heart, body, and soul level, I promise you, you will stop wasting time and going around in circles in the jungle of Southeast or Southwest when it comes to dating. Now, a part of you might secretly feel safer doing that, but let's face it, ultimately it's painful, disappointing, and exhausting. So it really is about taking a risk to like define your true north and step into that belief that you might actually be able to have it. Because if you got in a car and went for a drive, you'd really need to know where you were going, right? And the same is definitely true for love. You have to set a direction of travel really clearly in order to actually be able to arrive there. And as I've said, this might take quite a bit of courage, but really it's the only way to truly have the love that deep down you know that you want. Now, this isn't simply a matter of imagining George Clooney or Idris Elba or whatever other fantasy man you have your eye on. It's really about taking into consideration not just what your mind, your fantasy, imagination, and your ego want, but also those more tender, vulnerable, and delicate aspects of your heart. What does your body, what does your soul need in order to feel safe, loved, and protected? Right? Because remember, we've got all these subconscious fears and limiting beliefs running around inside of us about what we're actually deserving of, right? We need to take care of those parts. So it's very easy, right, to get entranced by a man's muscle or his wit or his money or his intelligence or the chemistry that he emits or whatever it might be. But yet, this isn't really what real love is about. And whilst we're entranced with those kinds of things, it's all too easy to completely overlook very important qualities such as consistency, safety, stability, presence, awareness, and kindness. So, I want to quickly talk about my client Alice, with whom I worked with for a year. So, when we worked together, we spent a long time unpacking all of this. And Alice realized that all her adult life, she had been looking for a fantasy man who would rescue her from a life that she hated. And yet, every time she found a powerful, handsome, rich, successful man that matched her fantasy, she felt completely overwhelmed. And she got so anxious around them, that she kind of collapsed and went into strange behaviors. And then she would get angry and resentful with them for not giving her what she wanted. But actually, it was her that was losing her cool. So ultimately, through our work together, she realized that she was attracted to these fantasy men from a wounded child part of her that in turn was coming from lack and fear. And together we did the work so that she could get really in tune with what she needed as opposed to what she wanted. And when she did that, everything changed. And by the end of our time together, she met a wonderful man and texted me a few weeks later to say, "Oh, Emma, I'm on date 4 with a doctor next week. Eek!" He surprised me last night by turning up at the concert that I was in the choir for. So let's go and have a look at more of what Elise says. Um, a few weeks or months later, I can't quite remember, she said, just to keep you in the loop, me and the doctor are exclusively dating one another. Eek again. He bought me flowers the other day and asked how much notice I needed to go on holiday, Barcelona, I think, and she loves her holidays. He had deleting his dating apps as well. We met on Match. I'm trying not to get too excited because by this stage, Alice realized the importance of staying grounded and not going into that anxious, leaning too far forward. And oh, I've missed a slide. But a couple of months after that, where have I gone? I've gone to the wrong place. I've missed a slide. A couple of months after that, she posted, oh no, this poster, sorry, this picture on social media. And I texted her to go, oh my gosh, is that your doctor? Because he's quite handsome, I think. So, and she said, yes, it's my doctor. And yes, he's my partner. It'll be nearly 5 months soon. It's early days, but everything is going well. And I'm meeting his eldest daughter tomorrow. So you can see as well that they were going fairly slow and steady on the family front. Okay, so everything that I've described so far in this masterclass, i.e., getting past your resentments, getting real about your fear-driven behavior and where it has come from, leaning into your desire, understanding what your heart and soul truly need. They are the first three of the 9 empowered steps that you need to take to meet your man in the next 90 days. And it's what we cover in the first 3 weeks of The Art of Electric Dating. But once your heart is renewed and you're ready for love, you also need to take some very specific, actionable steps to help you get there and effortlessly meet your ideal man. So this brings us to the second lot of 3 empowered steps, which is all about setting yourself up for dating success online, which are steps 4, 5, and 6 of The Art of Electric Dating. So, empowered step number 4, the first of the 3 in this section, is that you really want to make sure that you choose the right dating app for you. Now, all dating apps have a USP, right? An angle, an ideal client, and an algorithm that supports those ideal clients to get their desired outcome. So I'm going to use the example of Tinder here, right? So if you look at Tinder's marketing, which I have done because it's my job to do these things, you will see that most of its marketing is directed at people who want to have a good time whilst they're single. Now, they have moved slightly away from that in recent years, but they still very much reference sex and hookups in their marketing. And the reason for this is that the origins of Tinder, I don't know if you ladies know this, but Tinder originally came out of an app called Grindr, which was an app for gay men who were looking for quick and easy hookups, right? Now it took the formula from Grindr, turned it into something for straight people, and it did revolutionize the way that all dating apps work, right? The whole swiping and matching thing came out of Tinder. And so lots and lots of other dating apps followed suit and now have the same format because Tinder was so successful. But yet, at the same time, what you might not be aware of is that it's absolutely retained its market dominance for people looking for hookups and casual relationships. And so this angle still very much lingers on in this app. So this might sound a little bit surprising, but the only real time that I recommend Tinder as an app is for people living in rural areas. Now, that might sound a little bit strange, but it's because Tinder does have the numbers, right? So if the population is sparse, then it can be good to go on an app that has lots and lots of numbers. Now, please don't worry for those of you who are in a rural area and watching this, you absolutely don't have to succumb to Tinder's hookup culture because there are also decent men on there. And many more decent men in rural areas use Tinder because of the numbers issue that they experience on other apps. But if you live in a densely populated area or even a medium densely populated area, you might not want to wade your way through all those kind of city types and town types who just aren't suitable. So, this is the kind of detailed advice that you will get much, much more of in Module 4 of The Art of Electric Dating because every single app has a unique USP. And so in Module 4 of the program, I teach you exactly what these USPs are and the way each app's algorithms work so that you can personalize your success when you go online. Okay, so empowered step number 5 is to write a standout magnetic dating profile so that you don't get lost in the crowd because there are millions and millions of people online. This is your calling card, right? It's literally the thing that is going to draw men in or have them swipe on by. And so if you do it right, your inbox will be flooded with interesting messages from quality masculine men. But I want to ask you this, and maybe just share in the comments again. How many of you are really maximizing this opportunity? How many of you are really shining your light brightly through your profile so that a man shining his light brightly can find you? Now, this doesn't just mean great, sexy photos. In fact, I would recommend that you don't hook men in with sex in your photos. Now, there is a whole art to the photo side of things, which I can help you with if you decide to work with me. But what I mean for now, though, is how many of you do what Brené Brown calls to get in the ring and dare greatly, i.e., to be vulnerable, open, authentic, and honest in your profile. To tell and show men who you really are and what you're looking for, and to take a risk on saying something intimate, revealing, and even a little risque in your profile. Because so many women that I meet don't actually put very much on their profiles at all, because the argument goes, well, no one puts very much on their profile these days, so why bother? Ladies, that is simply a race to the bottom. There's nowhere to go with that. There is no cheese down that hole. Okay? So let me remind you about Heather, who was my 74-year-old client, who said she finally took the bulls by the bulls, the bull by the horns, and posted her profile on her chosen site. And the result has been staggering. She had loads of views, a myriad of responses, and in particular, one response that says, "Wow, it will take several readings of your amazing profile before I may consider a response. I had to contact you." She says, "This guy is amazing. He completely fits my blueprint and we'll see where it leads." But most importantly, she said, "Thank you, Emma. The module on writing your profile is worth its weight in gold. I would never have written anything so authentic and vulnerable without your guidance." Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so the next piece is a little bit more complex, but empowered step number 6 is to hone your intuition to such a point that you can easily recognize who to talk to and who not to. Now, the fact that you've defined your true north and the type of man that your heart really yearns for in the first step really comes into play here, because this now acts as your relationship blueprint, which in turn, as you saw with Heather, acts as a magnet for the man who fits that blueprint. All you really need to ask yourself when you're deciding who to talk to and who not to is, does this man that I'm talking to take me closer or further away from the true north of my desire? Because also, what you need to be able to do if you're using the dating apps is to be able to recognize the key indicators that will reveal whether a man that you're talking to is a match for your relationship blueprint or not. You need to not only intuitively understand, but logically also be able to recognize and know how this man is going to show up in his profile when you first talk to him by message and when you first meet him for a first, second, and third date. Okay, now if you can figure a lot of this out in advance, right, by doing the relationship blueprint work, working out your key indicators from that blueprint, honing and dialing in your intuition, you are going to have so much more chance knowing if a man is actually worth the time that you're going to spend traveling to meet him, getting dressed up for, putting your makeup on more, and potentially spending money on a night out with way before you get to that stage. And that is going to save you time, energy, and money, but particularly energy, right? This is the important thing. We need to protect this heart. So this is what we cover in module 6 of the Art of Electric Dating through a video training, a workbook with written exercises, and a series of 3 powerful meditations that are designed to truly bring your intuition online in relation to the men that you're considering connecting with. So to recap, what I've just done is gone through the second step of the Art of Electric Dating, which is all about setting yourself up for dating success. And this is what a past participant, Julie, had to say about this part of the process and about how she found it. Okay, she says the Art of Electric Dating is unbelievably good value. You get so much, and I learned so much from it. I think my main takeaway is to simply be myself. And now that I've done the course, I understand myself so much better. That understanding piece is really important, ladies, right? But that understanding then enabled her to be far more authentic around men too. And I've created a dating profile that really sells who I am. Whereas before, I would have written one based on what I thought men would and wouldn't want to see. Right. Click, click, click. Now, obviously, the journey doesn't end once you've found a man that you like the look of and who fits your blueprint, because next you have to speak to him, date him, build the connection mentally, emotionally, and physically. And all of this is about openness, willingness, and curiosity, but also about pacing, timing, resonance, and being able to stay in flow. And this is what we cover in the final third of the Art of Electric Dating, i.e., in steps 7, 8, and 9. So, when it comes to this part of the dating process, I find that women struggle with one of 2 things. The first is that they're leaning too far forward and wanting to rush the process, i.e., they're in a slightly anxious state of mind and wanting to create the security of an instant relationship. But the problem with this is that it results in them losing themselves, in breaking their own boundaries, and in ignoring red flags. But possibly worse than that, it also really puts off the decent men who might be in the market for a relationship, but because you're coming off as needy, they end up backing away. The second problem that might be happening in this early stage of dating is that you're leaning too far back. You're playing it cool, you're withholding your feelings, and you're generally coming across with those Ice Queen vibes. The problem with this is that it results in men feeling like they're failing with you, or perhaps in feeling that they're being interrogated and coming up short, right? Because that natural kind of organic flow just isn't there. And so men tend to start dropping like flies against the walls of the Ice Maiden's castle. You don't want to be that lady anymore, do you? So, the ideal posture that you want to be able to assume and hold when dating and relating to men is the upright but flexible spine and open heart. The spine represents standards and boundaries, and it's your internal masculine aspect that needs to uphold them. But he doesn't uphold them so that you can keep your heart closed. No, he upholds them because he is in service to your inner feminine, that part of you that can open her heart, who is ready to receive, like so many of my clients became able to, right? To be surprised, to be led onto the dance floor by a man and to surrender to his lead in trust. Now, this can be a pretty hard balance to pull off, and I can tell you that I come across many women who think they have it mastered, but who, because they are missing the nuance of it and how it plays out in various dating and relating scenarios, are still single years later after a series of short-lived flirtations and trysts, right? So again, in the art of electric dating, and particularly in the silver and gold versions, if you can run to that, I will really support you to get into the nuance of exactly how to master this energetic posture so that you don't fall down after those first few dates, but that you can really take these three final empowered steps and actually sustain and cultivate a long-term, healthy, loving relationship. So this brings us on to empowered step number 7, which is to stay open, connected, and in flow whilst texting men online so that the whole thing feels like a delightful game of tennis in which the ball is received and then sent back over the net in ever increasingly exciting, playful, and challenging ways. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to text too much before meeting somebody, but this is really what's going to help you get to know a man better before you spend precious time and energy on a date. And it's also what's going to intrigue and delight him so that he becomes the one dying to ask you out. Now, again, there's a whole 90-minute training and workbook on just this one aspect in the art of electric dating. And I also teach you how and when to move to WhatsApp, voice messages, phone calls, or video calls when or if those things feel right and if they are important. And I would suggest that one of those steps probably is important before you meet a man in person. So, empowered step number 8 then is to stay in flow and connection whilst dating through dates 1 to 5, so that you, yes, build momentum and depth of connection, but you also stay in tune with the pace that your man is going at. Because let's face it, there is nothing more disappointing than meeting a man you really like, having a great first date or couple of dates, only for the whole thing to nosedive later, which is why I am 100% committed to your lasting happiness in love. I've taken this program much further beyond just meeting a man to also explore how to effortlessly bag his commitment too. So, in the art of electric dating, again, there's a whole 90-minute training and practical exercise teaching you how to navigate these early and, let's face it, very vulnerable stages of the dating game so that you can effortlessly move towards that commitment and exclusivity. And it's so important to know this because each person is completely individual. And so, no two people, no matter how well matched you are going to move at exactly the same speed in those early stages of dating. So, you definitely need to know how to negotiate the differences, but also how to maintain your confidence and your radiance as you do. Okay, so finally, empowered step number 9, module 9 in the art of electric dating, is to decide exactly when it's the right time to sleep with him so that it actually deepens the emotional bond rather than peaks it, destroys the mystery, and so breaks the connection. Because listen, look, I celebrate women's sexuality 100%, and I want you all to have as much great sex as you can possibly handle. But there are differences in the way that men think and feel about sex to the way that we tend to think and feel about it. And so, you know, unless you understand this, you can easily make a wrong step at this stage. So you definitely want and need this particular training. I go into a super amount of depth about how men think and feel about sex and romantic connection. And then I also teach you how to tune into your own desire again more deeply when it comes to sex and how you choose the right time to make sure that you feel confident, trusting, and that you don't get hurt later down the line. Okay, so these last 3 steps are pretty in-depth and nuanced. If you do sign up for the bronze version, please make sure you finish because the ladies that don't finish don't get the results. These last few steps are super, super important, right? What I'm doing in these last three steps as well are really going into depth about how to bring the different aspects of yourself into alignment so that you know the exact next step to take as you date, so that you can really anchor into coming from a place of desire, and so that you can also practice honest and open communication from a place where your mind, your heart, and your body are all aligned and not going into conflicting drives. Okay. And it's possible, ladies, to do all of this while staying in your feminine energy. We all have parts of ourselves that are scared and anxious, parts that are desirous and risk-taking, parts that are wounded, and parts that crave security and stability. But when we can work on finding that coherence within us and have all of these parts acting congruently, that's when we have the best chance of not only finding Mr. Right, but also being able to hold ourselves well around him and show up around him in a way that is self-honoring and self-respecting, but that also sees and respects him clearly and honors his pace and his needs as well. I.e., we meet as two whole adults rather than anxious little girl looking for daddy or as ice queen looking to kick a little boy in the shins. So this is what another of my clients, who's also called Julie, is learning to come into right now. Her fully embodied, wise, powerful, relaxed, and open-hearted woman. I first met Julie when she signed up for the self-study version of my dating program. She had a very anxious relationship with the dating apps and was on a continuous cycle of getting really excited by men, only to end up blocking and deleting almost every single one. I.e., she was veering between leaning too far forward and leaning too far back, between anxious little girl and ice maiden. Now, after completing the self-study version of the course, she decided to upgrade to the gold program, where she gets 10 personal coaching sessions with me. The self-study version of the course taught her what she was truly looking for and what kind of signs she should spot in a man or look for in a man. Then in our face-to-face work together, she worked on really honing her intuition, learning to trust it, and also learning to trust men after a long time of feeling wounded, hurt, and violated by them. She's now gone from anxious, distrustful, and shooting in the dark with men who were completely wrong for her, only to then shut them down, to being able to identify her ideal man, learning to stay open to him and trust him, even when his pacing, timing, or needs are different to hers. She has really learned to embody in real time that upright, flexible spine with the open heart. And I can tell you that it is working. Let's go on to Julie. So she says, I no longer entertain any hint of turbulence from a guy. And I've met someone. We met on Halloween, and for a month we continued to meet as unlikely friends, but we also had the best time around each other, and things seemed to be unfolding so naturally. That's the pacing piece, right? And she was willing to be in that friendship first before wanting to lock it down. I've not overthought or been anxious about this guy in any way because he has continued to show up. He makes plans with me in advance. He's always excited to be in my company. We laugh, we sing, and we dance. Okay, so there we go. I will stop the share on that. Did I stop the share? Yes, I did, I believe. Okay. Oh, guys, it's been a long week or 2 weeks. Okay, so ladies, I have questions for you. What do you want to be experiencing in your love life in the next few months? Let's take a little bit of time now just to close your eyes, maybe take some deep breaths, and really tune into your desire. Feel that desire in your heart and in your tummy. And behind closed eyes, what do you see? Do you see day trips, holidays, Do you see long country walks, pub lunches, flowers, romance, love, connection, cuddles, great sex, being told you're special and that you're the woman that he's longed for a long time? Perhaps you see a man who would meet and embrace your family and friends to help you out around the house, to talk things through with, to laugh and joke with. Perhaps you see someone who really gets you and supports you in all areas of your life, someone that you can make plans with, share dreams with, and build a future with. So just really feel into that, like which one of those things resonates the most, or perhaps you have some of your own. And if you're ready, just so that we can continue with this idea of not leaving any woman to feel on her own with this, tell us what your desire is, share it, type it into the comments. Let's send a signal to all the other ladies and to the universe and to yourself that you are ready for this, that you can have it. Let's really lean into that desire. And let's really experiment now with just expanding your havingness levels just in this moment, just for a few seconds or minutes, because it's that kind of practice, second by second, minute by minute, that eventually will build and grow until you can have and hold the relationship of your dreams. So don't choose this moment now to shy away, collapse into fear, insecurity, doubt, or resistance, but instead, as I've said, to really feel, honor, and back yourself in your desire. Because remember, this is the first step towards getting what you want. And also remember that the feminine doesn't say, I'll believe it when I see it. She says, I'll see it when I believe it. So, what do you want? What do you believe is possible for you? And if you can't quite believe it right now, do you want and need some help to strengthen and support your belief system? Okay, so next I want you to imagine, and again, close your eyes and just take a little bit of time with your heart, with your tummy, perhaps even your genitals. How would it feel if you actually had all of this? If you actually had it in the next 90 days, in the next 12 weeks, if you could sustain and grow and develop this love over the next 6 months, going into a year, so that you're really building something solid with a man who is emotionally intelligent, kind, honest, present, and who knows his own mind and who can hold you and really meet you. How would that feel? Type it in the comments. Let's create a little bit of electricity and buzz. All right. I've said it enough times already, but this absolutely is the point of the art of electric dating, so that you can meet your man in the next 90 days and so that he is by your side as we go through the year, right? As the nights get longer, then as the nights get cooler again, so that you can spend Christmas with him, so that you can go into next year with him. And as I hope you can see from tonight on the Art of Electric Dating, I walk you through in great detail exactly what I've been talking about on this training, so that you fully integrate, so that you embody this stuff, so that it becomes deep wisdom that lives in your bones and that you use as a sat nav through the rest of your love life for years to come. It's a process that will help you overcome each and every obstacle as you date, which, let's face it, are numerous. So, again, lack of decent men, lack of great conversation, sexters, ghosters, scammers, not being able to get to that first date, not feeling chemistry, not being able to get through past a handful of dates. Blech. Let's throw all of that away. Let's stay in the vision of what is coming. It is actually easy to overcome all of those obstacles that now feel insurmountable when you have the roadmap, the right tools, and a mentor and a group of women traveling with you that you can ask for support. All right, guys. So I know that lots of you have looked at this already, but just very quickly, let's just get a visual on it. Okay, so here we go. Loads of you have checked out this sales page. You just need that little extra push to jump. So here we go. These are the first three steps: befriending the online landscape, healing and learning from the past, getting crystal clear on your ideal man. That's what we have been talking through. Getting rid of energetic debris, getting rid of resentment and fear, getting rid of confusion, inner conflict, and lack of clarity, right? So that you can shine that light brightly once you get online. And remember, I advise that you don't date until you have done all of that work. Steps 5, 6, and 7, choosing the right app based on your personality, lifestyle, and desires, creating a standout magnetic dating profile so that you intrigue quality men, you pique their interest, and you don't get lost in the crowd. Understanding exactly step number 7, understanding exactly who to talk to and who not to, so that you stop wasting time on unsuitable men and are able to easily identify which men have the potential to be an amazing life partner. And steps 9, 10, and 11. Forget those men who can't converse, who don't initiate dates, who initiate them too fast, or who are only after one thing, and learn how to play this courtship game through this new electronic medium that can open up our worlds and introduce us to so many people that we wouldn't normally have met. That is the big bonus of online dating. And know exactly how to drop your handkerchief in a feminine way so that he's inspired to ask you out on that fun first date. Get off that emotional roller coaster in step 10 and learn how to pace things in a way that leads to love and commitment rather than the all or nothing thing that perhaps some of you have been on. And finally, step 11, sorry, yeah, step 9 actually, but there's some integration weeks because this material is dense. That's why the weeks don't quite correlate to the steps, because I've also put in 3 integration weeks so that you can catch up with all of this because it is quite a lot. So step 9 is knowing when it's the right time to sleep with him so that you leave hookups and friends with benefit situations behind and understand exactly when to open to him sexually so that it deepens that emotional bond rather than sabotages it. All right, so you get all of this. You can do the self-study version, the silver version, or the gold version, and you will get all of it, right? Including lifetime access to all the materials and access to a VIP Facebook group in which you can ask any questions and receive my coaching support online. The bronze version is 297, but you can pay in 5 monthly installments of just £60. If you pay in full, you get a bonus 30-minute coaching call with me. With the silver version, you get these 9 group coaching sessions, which are 2 hours long for a small, intimate group. That's a lot of additional value, plus 4 special bonus trainings, all for 888, also payable over 10 months for just £88. Or if you pay in full, a 45-minute one-to-one bonus coaching call with me. And if you choose the gold version, you get all of that plus 10 one-to-one sessions with me, which are 60 minutes long each, weekly questionnaires in advance of the sessions so that we arrive on those sessions fully focused, ready to dive deep together, plus a personalized dating review. I will read and edit your dating profile so that it pops. I will go through your photos. I will make sure your photos tell a great story about you and attract that perfect man. Now, with that one, you also get 4 bonus trainings, and the whole price is 1,797. Also available in 3, 5, or 10 monthly installments. 10 monthly installments are 180, and the pay in full bonus on that is a 60 one-to-one, 60-minute one-to-one coaching call with me. All right, and here are the bonus trainings: how to spot both green and red flags, how to have the best first date ever, never get ghosted again and ghost proof yourself forever, and how to meet men offline and in real life instead. Now, all of these workshops people are paying for unless they're on this program, on the silver or gold program. All right. So, where are we? Okay. Bum, 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 bum. I want to let you know, ladies, that there are coaches out there who are charging between £3,000 and £20,000 for this kind of value. These prices are unheard of in the coaching industry, and you won't get this kind of specialized support through a therapist either. And I hope you can see from these live streams that I invest a lot of time, detail, and care into my teachings, and that I'm also massively invested in your success. And because I genuinely want this to be as accessible as possible to any woman who wants to do this work, that's also why I've introduced these very generous payment plans so that you can get started for just £60 a month. Now, that's just £15 a week. And I'm pretty much sure that everybody can save on something to get that £15, or else you can just naturally afford it. So, just to reiterate, you have until midnight Sunday to take up this offer. After that, it will be off the table again for at least another year, and it may be off the table forever. So if you're on the fence, don't put the decision off, or reach out to me if you need some connection or to ask some questions. You can DM me, or you can book a 15-minute call with me, which a couple of ladies have already done. Okay. If you've only got the money for the bronze version, you can always upgrade later down the line, okay? I want to just reiterate as well that the coaching group on a Monday night is incredibly small and intimate. There is plenty of space for everything. This is going to work. I hope you can see that. It is going to transform your life. It is going to reinvent your love life. Honestly, nobody ever regrets working with me. The only regret that people have is that they didn't do it sooner. So if you're sitting on the fence, I would invite you to move from fear into desire, from lack and scarcity into havingness, believing and knowing that you can have it. This is your first step to actually sending that signal to yourself. I want you to think about the value coming in rather than the money going out, and to shift your attention from the results that you will get, right? A lot of people say, oh, I'll do it at some other point, but they don't come back. And then I see them circling back around 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later, still unhappy and frustrated in love. If somebody said to me, Emma, you can have the tens of £1,000s that you've spent on personal development back, but in return, you have to take your old life back, I would be an absolute firm no. And some of you might have seen my videos with former clients in my Facebook group. When I ask them this question, which is my standard question at the end of every single interview, and I don't prep them in advance, every single one of them is a no, because the value coming in and the results that you get outweigh the value of the cash in the bank. I'm not lying. Okay. Somebody asked me on a 15-minute call the other day. She said, honestly, tell me what results you get, because I've had other people lie to me before. I can't lie. I find it too difficult. So there we go. The transformation will begin as soon as you commit. You will get instant access to all the material. And ladies, I have a t-shirt that I got on one of my trainings, and I believe this to be true. And it says, life begins when you say yes. All right. Remember, if you bite the bullet and sign up tonight, you get the additional 60 hours of free training with male dating and relationship experts, other experts, particular sexuality experts, people from all over the world, loads of videos about all sorts of things, including like going deeper into how to show up around men, all sorts of things, right? This is a one-time offer for the next 24 hours. All right, loves, I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for so many of you for staying with me right until the end. This is the end of the live training, but you do have another 5 or 6 days or so to sign up. So I hope to work with some of you soon. It will be my great pleasure to help you get the love that you want. So again, put some comments in the feed. and let me know what resonated with you most. I would love to hear. All right, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will connect with you somewhere else, somewhere soon. If even if you don't sign up, I will see you again in the bigger Facebook group. Mwah. All right, bye.